If legs are knocking, don't open the door. Remember, your shadow was already hanged from the ceiling. If your shadow reappears, kill it quickly. My name is Eric, and I'm a psychiatrist at City Central Hospital. I just pulled open my office drawer and found a small slip of paper. After reading the 2 crooked lines of text, I figured it must be a prank from one of my patients. No need to worry about it. Knock, knock, knock. Someone was at the office door. Come in, I called out. No one entered. The knocking continued. Just a moment. I stood up, intending to open the door. As I got up, I froze. I realized I had no shadow. My shadow was gone. Your shadow was already hanged from the ceiling. I looked up. A human-shaped shadow lay across the center of the ceiling. The knocking outside continued. If legs are knocking, don't open the door. How would I know if legs were knocking? How could legs even knock? Whatever was knocking, I decided not to open the door. I sat back down at my desk and noticed 2 new lines had appeared on the note. The original content was gone. The shadow died to protect you, so the office is absolutely safe. If a head is knocking, please open the door and tell it you're not its attending doctor. I walked back to the door. How could I tell what was knocking outside? Wait. The sound seemed to be coming from below. If this followed some twisted logic, legs would be below, and a head would be above. Then I definitely wasn't opening the door. You'd better play by the rules, whatever you are. After a while, the knocking stopped. I distinctly felt the palm of my hand holding the note grow warm. I unfolded it. New clues had appeared. Knock on the wardrobe 3 times, try asking. Don't be too greedy, there's a price to pay. Besides you, there are 4 other intruders. Intruders will be attacked by them. Find a way to escape this dimension and take me with you. Ask the wardrobe. I looked at the old wardrobe in my office where I hung my white coat. What was the price for asking a question? Might as well try. I walked to the wardrobe and knocked gently 3 times. Where is the door to escape this dimension? As I finished speaking, a blood-red, fishy-smelling liquid slowly seeped out of the wardrobe's old door, like a gaunt demon writing in blood. The door is on the 5th floor. Then, the writing vanished as if nothing had happened. Screech. The wardrobe shifted slightly to the left. I tried to push it back, but it wouldn't budge. Was this the price I had to pay? What kind of price was this? To the left. I looked to my left. At the end was my office door. Could it be? If I wasn't mistaken, if I asked enough questions, the wardrobe would completely block the door, trapping me to die in this small office. I couldn't be sure how far the wardrobe moved each time. Maybe after the next question, it would seal the door shut. Unless absolutely necessary, I shouldn't touch this wardrobe. The wardrobe just told me the door was on the 5th floor. The hospital has 12 floors, plus an underground parking garage. My office is on the 1st floor, so the 5th floor wasn't close. The problem now was how to get out and when I could get out. The note also said that in this dimension, I was an intruder, and intruders would be attacked. I couldn't just wander out. I needed an opportunity. I opened the note. It was as if it knew what I was thinking. Someone's coming. They've noticed something. When the head knocks, do as instructed before, take it to room 105, and don't let them find out you're not one of them. After I read it, these 2 lines immediately disappeared, and 2 new lines appeared on the note. Never forget you are you, not them. If you encounter danger, immediately hide in your office. Everything will return to normal. After a few minutes, the words on the note vanished, and no new ones appeared. Based on what I knew, 2 things would knock on my door. If legs knocked, I couldn't open. If a head knocked, I could open it and leave the office. If I encountered danger, I had to hide in my office. The note emphasized my 3 times, meaning going into someone else's office would have terrible consequences. I am Eric, definitely not one of them. I told myself. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking started again. I pressed my ear to the door and sensed the knocking was coming from above. This time, it should be the head. I placed my right hand on the doorknob, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Even though I had prepared myself, I was still startled when I opened it. But I had to try my best to remain calm. Don't let them find out you're not one of them. A head floated before my eyes. It wasn't a human head. I was sure of that. But I couldn't tell what species it belonged to. It looked a bit like a sheep, but it had a rhino horn on its forehead. Its eyes looked blind. If a head is knocking, please open the door and tell it you're not its attending doctor. I'm not your attending doctor, I said to the sheep-like head, my voice trembling slightly. I felt like the head was staring at me with its blind eyes. Let me take you to room 105. Only then did the sheep-like head move aside to let me pass. The hallway was sticky, covered in some unknown liquid. All sorts of strange creatures passed by me. I didn't dare look too closely. When I reached the door of room 105, I knocked. The door opened automatically. Inside sat a man in a white coat, just like me. Oh. You're here. Come in. I didn't know if that colleague was talking to me or the sheep-like head. Either way, I wasn't about to casually walk into someone else's office. After watching the menacing sheep-like head enter room 105, I turned and left. Next was to find clues. The note said there were 4 other intruders. Would they know more about the door? I didn't believe I could just waltz up to the 5th floor and find the door, nor did I believe I could easily open it once I found it. As for the wardrobe in my office, I wouldn't use it unless absolutely necessary. That wardrobe only gave me one impression: cunning. And that note, I couldn't fully trust it yet. I needed other ways to get information, then compare what I gathered to find the absolute truth. Perhaps I could try to blend in with them and get information from them. I took a quick look around. Although there were bizarre-looking creatures, there were also people who looked normal, like me. If I was careful, I shouldn't be discovered. I put my hands in the pockets of my white coat and calmly walked through the 1st floor hallway to the hospital entrance. Outside the hospital was shrouded in black fog. I couldn't see a thing. Dar. Eric? What are you doing? Aren't you going to see your patients? I turned to see a chimpanzee, as tall as me, standing behind me, squinting. The chimp was wearing glasses and smiling at me. I was just about to. Then you'd better hurry. Peter won't be pleased if you're irresponsible with your patients. I nodded and headed towards the ward I was responsible for. Peter? Never heard of him. Walking down the hallway, a nurse told me 2 new patients had arrived in room 135, a double room. Since she told me, it would be rude not to check on them. I went to room 135 and knocked. Come in. The voice sounded normal enough. The moment I stepped into room 135, I felt the note in my palm warm up. New information. But I didn't plan on opening it here. I looked at my 2 patients. They looked young, like college students. How are you feeling? I asked them. Pretty good, one of the students replied with a smile. The other student looked like he wanted to say something but was hesitant, glancing blankly at the one who had spoken. I nodded and left room 135. I walked through the sticky hallway and into a stall in the restroom. After making sure it was clear, I opened the note. The patients in room 135 are your kind. Use them, they make good bait. They were intruders too? If they were my kind, why tell me to use them for my own protection instead of cooperating with them? Could I really save myself by just following the note? Clearly not. This note was inherently selfish. Its purpose was already clear. It wanted me to use everything and everyone around me at any cost, while it, in turn, was using me. It treated me like a puppet, seemingly helping and guiding me, but in reality, it just wanted to achieve its own goals through me. Everything here was like that. It told me to ask the wardrobe but didn't care about the price I had to pay. If I died, it would just find someone else. Maybe even seamlessly. What a player. But I've never been one to be led by the nose. If it was ruthless, I'd be heartless. It used me, so naturally, I could use it too. But I wasn't sure if the note could read my thoughts. If it could, that would be tricky. Let's test it. I mentally asked the note, what should I do next? Obey the rules. I am your rules. Turn on all 3 bathroom faucets at the same time. My heart skipped a beat. This was bad, really bad. I walked over to the sink and placed the note on it. I mentally asked again, why turn on all 3 bathroom faucets at the same time? I looked at the note from a distance. No response. I picked up the note and mentally asked again, why turn on all 3 bathroom faucets at the same time? Only then did the note react. Obey the rules. I am your rules. Turn on all 3 bathroom faucets at the same time. Still the same message. If I didn't follow this instruction, it wouldn't answer my questions. I placed the note back on the sink. So, when I was in physical contact with the note, it could read my mind. But if I wasn't touching it, it couldn't. This was a breakthrough. It seemed. I really had to cooperate with my kind in room 135. I turned on the 3 sink faucets one by one. When I turned on the 3rd one, what gushed out wasn't tap water, but blood. I clearly felt my own blood being drawn out by an invisible force. That was my blood. I hurriedly shut off all the faucets. My vision went black, and a wave of weakness washed over me. I gripped the sink to support myself. It took about a minute to fully recover. The note had given me a wrong instruction. It was punishing me. Because of my earlier thoughts? I picked up the note again, and mentally told myself, I must absolutely obey the note's commands. This is the only way to get out of here. I need to gain the trust of the patients in room 135 first, then use them. I headed back towards room 135. I'm coming in. After entering room 135, one of the men immediately looked at me with a surprised expression. Steven, you're good. How did you predict this? I threw the note on the floor and kicked it into a corner. Predict what? I asked, turning to face my 2 patients. Predict that you'd come back, said the one called Steven. You're here to cooperate, right? How did you know? I was startled by his words. Don't tell me there's another mind reader? And even better than that piece of paper? You're too tense. They wouldn't be this tense. Though I don't know how you found out who we are, I guess it was through them. But you should know, they can't be trusted. So you decided to come back and cooperate with us. Being seen through so easily, I felt a bit resentful, so I didn't plan to confirm it immediately. You're sure we're the same kind just based on that? Of course, it's not just that. Everyone has their own resources. Steven pointed to the note I had kicked into the corner. That note, there's something wrong with it, isn't there? He used a question, but his tone was affirmative. I looked at the person next to Steven. This guy looked dazed, completely clueless the whole time. I had a rough idea of my teammates. 2 extremes, one extremely smart, one extremely dumb. Alright, my luck wasn't too bad. You're right. I won't hide it anymore. I also stumbled into this dimension. My name is Eric. I'm a psychiatrist from City A. I'm Steven 1, a college student from City B. In that case, pleasure working with you. How come you guys are already happily cooperating? Not including me? You gotta bring me along, for old time's sake, right? I'm Terry. Terry. I'm like, best buds with Steven. You really couldn't tell they were best buds. I thought they'd just met, their chemistry was practically zero. Next, I told them almost everything about my situation. Except for the wardrobe. That was my ace in the hole. Got it. Your goal is to get information from the note without being used by it, right? So you want to team up with us and mess with that note. Exactly. Smart guy, indeed. This is interesting. I like it. Like what? If Steven likes it, I have to like it too. I'm crazy for Steven. I'd run through a wall for Steven. I'd live and die for Steven. My heart beats only for Steven. Terry suddenly interjected. I suspected he was trying to grab attention. Are you a superfan or something? I complained silently. Steven, long accustomed to Terry's behavior, automatically tuned him out and started telling me about their previous experiences. They had come here from another chaotic dimension. Boss Steven, you're so smart, but you still chose the wrong path in the end. Back then, I thought, you're so smart, I'll definitely follow you. Whatever you choose, I'll choose. Who knew? Terry sighed. To me, this path isn't wrong. Things are this bad, and you're still being stubborn? Of those 3 paths back then, one was a dead end. The other 2 weren't necessarily paths to survival either. They were just 2 different possibilities. You mean? Yeah. Remember? The rule is, don't trust anyone easily. As he said this, Steven glanced at me. They didn't completely trust me either, just as I didn't completely trust them. After that, room 135 fell silent. 3 people in the room. Besides Terry, Steven and I were both lost in our own thoughts. Terry, blah, blah, blah. We're still living in an illusion. Reality? Maybe there's no reality. I just want to survive, no matter where I am. That's constant, Steven muttered to himself. Thinking about it, maybe my original dimension wasn't normal either, I was just born there and had gotten used to it. But no matter what, I still wanted to return to my dimension. The one I was in now wasn't suitable for my survival. What should I do next? At that moment, I hadn't realized that I had unknowingly handed over leadership to Steven. I had to admit, that guy was very resourceful, in every way. Now I had 3 sources of information, the note, the wardrobe, and Steven. Making the right judgment, choosing what was most beneficial to me, was my main task from now on. Pick up the note and ask it how to use the bait. The bait, naturally, referred to Steven and Terry. I walked to the corner and picked up the piece of paper I had stepped on. I mentally asked, what is the method for using the bait? On the 5th floor. What followed was a page full of ellipses. What was going on? Then, the words on the paper hastily vanished, and 2 inexplicable sentences appeared. In an inescapable moment of my contemplation and solitude, it terrified me again, forcing me to temporarily cut off all communication. When the balance is broken, I can only be forced into dignified silence. Did it lose connection? What was happening? No matter what I asked next, the note didn't respond. I placed the note on the table beside Steven's bed. It's not responding, I said. Terry guessed, out of battery. Did it hear what you guys were saying? I suggest you don't conspire so loudly next time. Doesn't seem like it. If it could hear us, it wouldn't react like this. This reaction was like, it's afraid of something. Steven voiced my thoughts. Perhaps that sentence, forcing me to temporarily cut off all communication, was the reason for its current silence. This note now seemed no different from ordinary paper. A balance must have been broken. To make it speak again, we had to wait for the balance to be restored. Just as I was wondering what the balance was, the door suddenly opened. Stephen, quick-witted, threw the note from the table to the floor. I reacted instantly. The note couldn't be discovered by them. I stepped on the note that had fallen to the ground. "You'll just have to suffer for a bit." Although I said that, I felt quite satisfied, stepping on the note with considerable force. The one who walked in was a creature with a fat pig's head. Behind him followed the chimpanzee I had met at the entrance. "Peter is making rounds." The chimp still gave me that official smile, even the curve of its lips was the same as our last meeting. "The patients are stable." I mimicked the chimp's manner, giving Peter a creepy smile. "Meeting tonight at 9 p.m. in conference room 444. Don't be late." Peter nodded with satisfaction, then left to inspect the next room. After they closed the door and walked away, Terry looked at me worriedly and said, "That smile of yours just now gave me goosebumps." "Can't be helped. Life's a stage, all about acting. What does a kid like you know?" I moved my foot and picked up the note from the floor. "Are you back online?" I asked mentally. The note still didn't respond. Probably useless now. That was fine too. At least my privacy was protected. I could curse it freely now. Just in case, I put it on the table before I started cursing. Then, Stephen and I began to study the last 2 sentences the note had left me, trying to deduce the note's balance. In an inescapable moment of my contemplation and solitude, it terrified me again, forcing me to temporarily cut off all communication. When the balance is broken, I can only be forced into dignified silence. From inescapable, terrified, forcing, and forced, we could infer that it was something the note feared, and that it might be related to the balance we were looking for. Since it was temporarily cut off all communication, it meant the note would come back. It was just temporarily forced to break contact with me. What exactly broke the balance? Was it because I allied with Stephen and Terry? Unlikely. Because the note had answered my question before losing contact. It only became abnormal after displaying on the 5th floor. Meaning, the balance was broken only at that moment. Finally, Stephen and I suspected that Peter was what made the note fearful. A creature that could even scare the note. Must be very difficult to deal with. I still had a meeting at 9 tonight, which meant I might lose the note's guidance for a long time. If Peter is the reason the balance was broken, then after the balance is restored, the note might have a cooldown period. After the cooldown, the note can return to normal. The note lost contact around 2:55 p.m. When it returns to normal, note the time, calculate the cooldown period, and then verify it a few times to see if that's the case, Stephen suddenly said. "You even remembered the time the note lost contact?" I didn't expect Stephen to pay attention to such things. "What do you think I've relied on to get this far?" Cheerleader Terry reappeared. "Stephen's the best, as expected." I rolled my eyes at Terry. I had to say, Terry had some skill to have made it this far. Quite experienced at slacking off. "You're pretty good too, Eric," Terry grinned at me. "Whatever. Can't argue with a kid." Stephen and Terry were currently patients and couldn't move around freely. I had to find a way for them to move freely in the hospital. It was getting late. I had to leave room 135 and go to the next room to see my other patients. The note said there were 4 intruders besides me. I had already found 2. Where were the other 2? In the next room, a nurse was restraining a patient. The patient had a crack in his chest, from which countless colorful, thin snakes were poking their heads out. "Dar. Eric, the patient is having an episode, very agitated. Please come take a look," the nurse called to me. Coincidentally, I have trypophobia. I can't stand looking at such scenes. Dar. Eric, why are you just standing there? Are you sick? Do you want me to take a look at you? The nurse turned her head and looked at me quizzically. Only then did I see that the nurse's face was a gaping maw, covered in jagged teeth. "I'll be right there." Actually, my trypophobia wasn't that severe. I could still overcome my fear and examine the patient. "So, no need for you to worry about me, nurse. How long have you been at this hospital?" I asked the nurse. 4 p.m. sharp. Although I didn't quite understand what it was saying, it didn't stop me from improvising. "Then let me test you. Faced with this patient's condition, what should be done next?" "Harvest the fruit." "Yes, well said. Do just that. This little thing shouldn't be a problem for you, right?" The nurse nodded, took out a syringe, and injected the patient with an unknown liquid. Soon after, the patient quieted down. The nurse reached into the patient's chest and pulled out a red, apple-like fruit. Fruit harvesting complete. The patient stood up as if nothing had happened, took out a white coat from under the bed, put it on, and calmly walked over to me. I couldn't help but ask, "How long have you been at this hospital?" The answer I got was, 5:05 p.m. This was the exact time its fruit had been harvested. No abnormalities. Cleared. After I said that, the patient left the ward and became one of the many staff members in the hospital. I didn't know why I had said those words. Never forget you are you, not them. The note's reminder echoed in my mind again. It seemed my mind was being eroded by this bizarre hospital. I couldn't stay here too long, or I'd be assimilated. I am Eric, I am not them. I am Eric, I am not them. I am Eric, I am not them. I repeated it 3 times in my head. Then I continued to the next room. When the time reached 5:55 p.m., I distinctly felt a warmth in my palm. The note was back. It seemed the cooldown period was 3 hours. I finished my rounds early, returned to my office, and opened the note. Same as before, 2 new messages appeared. "This is no place to linger." "You don't say?" "Go get the pen from the director's breast pocket on the 4th floor." I placed the note on the desk. "What's the pen for? Do I need a pen to open a door?" "What, are we going for some kind of magic pen brings things to life plot here? You useless piece of paper, really know how to use people. You can't beat the director yourself, so you want me to go get myself killed?" As I cursed the paper 1,000 times in my head, a wail suddenly came from under my feet. I looked down. A shadow was twisting and deforming violently beneath me. Remember, your shadow was already hanged from the ceiling. If your shadow reappears, kill it quickly. Kill the shadow? How do you kill a shadow? I tried stomping on it hard a few times, useless. I looked at the wardrobe. Did I have to risk asking the wardrobe? I wasn't willing to take such a big risk for a mere shadow. Right, the note. I picked up the note again and asked it, "How can I kill the shadow?" The reply was just one sentence: "Go get the pen from the director's breast pocket on the 4th floor." Clearly, if I didn't do this task, it would refuse to give me any information. I threw the note back on the table. "Pen, pen, pen, all you know is the pen. You look like a dumb pen yourself." Seeing the shadow under my feet getting more excited, making me more fearful and uneasy. Either I think of a way to kill the shadow, or I ask the wardrobe. Away, away, away. Got it. I stood under the wardrobe's shadow, letting it completely cover my own shadow. I didn't know if this counted as killing the shadow. Hopefully, it worked. Otherwise, I'd have to ask the wardrobe. Gradually, the wailing from under my feet stopped. A shadow can kill a shadow. The hospital felt increasingly dangerous. The longer I stayed, the harder it would be to escape. Time was short. It seemed I had to risk using the wardrobe. I knocked 3 times on the wardrobe door and asked, "How can Stephen and Terry move freely in the hospital like me?" Red, unknown liquid seeped out onto the wardrobe, forming words. "Have them secretly put on the white coats from under their beds, and announce that they've matured and you've eaten their fruit. The wardrobe started to move. With every inch it moved, my heart tensed up a little more. It wasn't going to seal me in the office this time, was it? This time, it moved significantly farther than before. At this rate, I could only ask one more question at most. I suddenly remembered I had a meeting at 9 p.m. in conference room 444 on the 4th floor. Just hearing the room number told me it was an unlucky place. Couldn't they just hold a Zoom meeting? Whatever, I'd humor the note for now. I picked up the note from the desk again. I told myself, after the meeting, I'll find a way to get the director's pen. Before going to the meeting, I had to get Stephen and Terry out. Just in case something happened to me, they could help. I went to room 135 and knocked. "Come in," Stephen's voice answered. Terry, on the other hand, was already asleep. I had no idea how he could be so carefree. After stepping on the note, I explained the situation to Stephen. While Stephen was putting on the white coat from under the bed, I prepared to wake Terry. I called him several times, but Terry didn't stir. Then Stephen walked over and kicked Terry off the bed. Definitely an acquaintance, rough enough. I didn't let Terry ask too many questions, just told him to put on the white coat from under his bed and follow me. It was better for Terry not to know too much, lest he inadvertently cause trouble for me. Not long after walking down the hallway with Stephen and Terry, we ran into the chimp. "What's this?" The chimp looked at me and Stephen with an expression that made me feel uneasy. "They've matured." I ate their fruit, I repeated what the wardrobe told me to say. After hearing my words, the chimp's expression instantly changed. It looked at me with a friendly smile, patted my shoulder, and said, "Good job, but don't let the director know." I nodded, then left with Stephen and Terry. Stephen suggested we go to the 5th floor first to check things out. When we reached the 4th floor, we found that above it was the 6th floor. Why was there no 5th floor? My mood at that moment was like watching a grim reaper extinguish my lamp of hope. Sudden grief and disappointment overwhelmed me, making me want to vomit. "Can the elevator go to the 5th floor?" Terry asked. Stephen shook his head. "I noticed just now, the numbers on the elevator also skip 5 and go straight to the 6th floor." I hurriedly took out the note and asked it how to get to the 5th floor. The answer was still, "Go get the pen from the director's breast pocket on the 4th floor." What was that pen for? I asked the note again, "Is the pen necessary for me to get out? Can the pen open the door to the 5th floor? If you don't tell me how to get to the 5th floor, how can I take you and escape?" It didn't reply. A guilty conscience. The note didn't even care if I could escape smoothly, it still wanted me to get the pen. It seemed the note's purpose wasn't simply to escape with me. Getting the pen was a crucial step for it to achieve some other goal. If this step was broken, everything else would be meaningless to it. Therefore, until I got the pen, it refused to provide me with any other information. What was that pen really for? A strange buzzing filled my head. "It's almost time. You go to the meeting first. Terry and I will look around nearby and see if we can find any clues." Stephen's voice pulled me back to reality. I nodded and walked towards conference room 444. The conference room was almost full. I found an empty seat and sat down. Peter flapped his 2 pig ears and scanned the attendees. After all the seats were filled, Peter stood up, leaned on the table with both hands, and said, "There's an outsider among us." Peter's pig head revealed a grotesque smile as it scanned everyone at the meeting again. It was like a cat trying to find a trembling mouse in a corner. Of course, brilliant as I am, I've already identified the outsider here. Hearing Peter's words, I was so scared I could barely breathe. I knew I was the outsider. But I'm a magnanimous sort. I'm willing to accept this outsider into our fold, as long as they step forward voluntarily. I'll let bygones be bygones. For a moment, I even wanted to join them. Maybe joining them wouldn't be so bad? I was startled by my own thought. I am Eric, I am not them. I am Eric, I am not them. I am Eric, I am not them. I kept repeating this in my head, trying to stay lucid. Still not stepping forward? If you don't take this chance, the consequences might not be pretty. I didn't stand up. Even if I was discovered, I didn't want to join them. I was not them. Dragged R. Davis into paradise. Peter excitedly tugged his pig ears, his eyes wide, his expression crazed. Dar. Davis? Not me? I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a strong sense of exhaustion. Wait, what did he just say? Drag into paradise? Two ox-headed creatures came and dragged a middle-aged man through a black door at the end of the conference room. Then, blood-curdling screams came from behind the door. Simultaneously, Peter grew more and more excited. Seconds felt like years. After an unknown amount of time, the screams finally stopped. The black door slowly opened, and a bloody, headless body walked out. The body was holding a red fruit. It walked over to Peter and handed him the fruit. Peter laughed heartily and said, "You can't escape. Go back and rest." After watching the body leave, Peter began to eat the fruit. Red juice dripped onto his face, clothes, and hands, a shocking sight. What kind of paradise was this? Meeting adjourned. With Peter's command, everyone quickly left the conference room. I didn't know when I would be discovered. I had to get out of here quickly. Walking to the stairwell, I saw Stephen and Terry waiting for me. Any clues? I asked anxiously. Stephen shook his head. No other choice. I had to pin my hopes on the wardrobe again. I asked Stephen and Terry to wait for me outside my office. I entered the office alone, placed the note on the desk, and walked to the wardrobe. Actually, I had many questions. What was the note's purpose in making me get the pen? How could I maintain my sanity? Where was the other intruder, and were they already dead? But I could only ask one question: how can I get to the 5th floor? Several large, blood-red words appeared on the wardrobe: pass through that paradise. The wardrobe started moving towards the door. I tried to open the door while it was moving, but found I couldn't. Finally, the wardrobe stopped just a meter from the door. I couldn't ask the wardrobe any more questions. The note, the wardrobe, and Stephen. Now, the only one I could rely on was Stephen. I had never felt so insecure. I had to get the pen. Once I got the pen, the note would come back. It would definitely help me escape this place. Leaving the office, I explained the situation to Stephen and Terry. So, the way to the 5th floor is in conference room 444 on the 4th floor? Terry asked. I nodded. I still had to get that pen. Going alone would definitely be dangerous. Use them, they make good bait. The note's previous instructions surfaced in my mind again. But before that, we need to get the pen from the director's breast pocket on the 4th floor, I told Stephen. Terry asked, puzzled, what's the pen for? Stephen stared at me without speaking. The note said we can only get out if we get the pen. Actually, the note hadn't said that. Someone was lying. Who was lying? Was it me? Maybe. Stephen stopped looking at me and said lightly, Peter isn't easy to deal with. If that pen isn't absolutely necessary, it's better not to mess with it. I knew Peter was dangerous. But I couldn't be without the note. Couldn't be without the note. Couldn't. The buzzing in my head started again. I am Eric, not them. I am Eric, not them. I am Eric, not them. Only by constantly reminding myself could I barely maintain my lucidity. We have to get the pen, I said. Stephen was silent for a moment, then finally agreed to go with me to get the pen. The meeting ended at 9:15 p.m., meaning the note wouldn't reconnect with me until 12:15 a.m. It was now 10 p.m. 2 hours and 15 minutes left. The lights in the hallway were dim. At the far end of the hallway, a few figures flickered indistinctly. It's well known that night is more perilous than day. The patients began to come out and move around. One patient had very long arms, so long they dragged on the sticky floor. As it wandered aimlessly down the hallway, its sharp nails scraped against the ground, making a clumsy, ear-piercing sound. "Don't let them find out you're not one of them," I reminded Stephen and Terry. One of my patients appeared before me. Though his clothes were disheveled and his hair messy, his demeanor was calm. He walked past me unhurriedly, giving me a thoughtful look. "When the twilight bathes the white dove's wings, step confidently into that hell or paradise." His voice faded as he walked away. "Don't let them find out I'm not one of them." "So, should I say something like they do?" Terry asked. "I told you to blend in, not to advertise your low IQ." Confirmed. I'd be surprised if Terry's IQ was above 3. After Stephen glanced at Terry, Terry shut up. "Terry, buddy, if you really don't know what to do, you can just do nothing." "Well, Dr. Eric, still making rounds this late?" The chimp suddenly appeared at a corner of the hallway. My eyes darted around. I leaned closer to the chimp and whispered, "Shoo, who wouldn't want to eat a few more fruits?" "Ha ha ha, you're the smart one, knowing the director went to bed so early tonight for the first time." "Alright, I won't call you out. Go on, go on." Then Stephen suddenly spoke up, "The director really treasures that pen, doesn't he?" The chimp paused, then laughed a few times before lowering its voice and saying to us, "Treasures it? You're a bold one for a newbie. Interested? Then sneak it out and take a look. What's the big deal? Just put it back before the director wakes up. Anyway, he sleeps like a log, who knows if he'll even wake up? It's fine. Speaking of which, it's about time someone else took over as director." After saying that, the chimp pushed up its glasses, walked past us, and headed down the other end of the hallway. "Why did you suddenly ask that? Do you know how dangerous that was?" I was a bit angry at Stephen's sudden interjection. Stephen gave a mysterious smile. "Let's go get the pen. We can't miss this chance tonight for the fishermen to profit while the snipe and clam fight." "What do you mean?" "Think about what the chimp just said." Stephen didn't plan to answer me directly. On the way to the director's office, I thought about what the chimp had said. The director went to bed so early tonight for the first time, anyway, he sleeps like a log, who knows if he'll even wake up, it's about time someone else took over as director. Coupled with Stephen's hint, when the snipe and clam grapple, the fisherman profits. Could it be that the chimp was planning to deal with the director? And it planned to act tonight? No wonder it didn't object when I said I ate fruits earlier, only telling me not to let the director find out. The question now was, how did Stephen know that Peter and the chimp were the snipe and clam? Did he know something else he hadn't told me? Just like I hadn't told them the whole truth. That Stephen guy, what else did he know? Once I got the pen and regained the note's help, would part ways with Stephen and Terry. That guy was too cunning, untrustworthy. The note was enough. They were just bait. Disposable. The strange noises started in my head again, like a demon's low growl. "I am Eric. I am Eric. I am Eric." I kept reminding myself, barely maintaining my lucidity. Yes, the note was enough. I smiled. Reaching the director's office door, just as I was about to push it open, I suddenly remembered, I probably shouldn't just enter someone else's office. "You guys go get it." I looked at Stephen, feeling a bit shameless. Can being shameless put food on the table? No. You're the one who wants the pen, right? You won't get it yourself, but you want us to? What's in the director's office? Stephen squinted at me. I haven't been there, I don't know. The reason I'm not going is because I can't just enter other people's offices, I said, truthfully. Stephen continued to squint at me. Being stared at by him, even though I wasn't lying, I felt a sense of guilt. Let me think about it. Stephen looked away. After about 10 minutes of silence, Stephen agreed to enter the director's office. Boss Stephen, I'll go with you. Terry piped up. No need. You stay here and keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on me? What bad thing could I do? I knew Stephen's trust in me had diminished further. But I didn't care. Getting the pen was all that mattered. I still had the note. The note was enough. It was already 11:10 p.m. 1 hour and 5 minutes left until the note returned. The note, the note, the note. I felt genuinely excited. At 11:30 p.m., Stephen walked out of the director's office. Did you get it? I asked nervously. Yeah, Stephen tossed the pen to me. This pen is only useful to you, right? Indeed. I didn't reply to Stephen, changing the subject. Now we go to conference room 444 on the 4th floor. Opening the door inside the conference room, I immediately noticed a dim yellow light glowing above the black door at the far end. It was the only light on in the conference room, which cast an indescribable atmosphere over the place. How did this dove move here? Walking up to the black door, I noticed a white stone dove at the entrance. I remembered it wasn't here when I was in the conference room for the meeting earlier. Is there a problem? Stephen asked me. When I was at the meeting before, this dove was by the entrance. I don't know why it's here now. I didn't pay too much attention to the white stone dove. Stephen squatted down, then propped himself up with his hands and lay on the floor to look under the stone dove. There are wheels under the stone dove, Stephen said. So what if there are? Let's just open the door. Terry was about to open the door when Stephen pulled him back. What are you doing? I asked Stephen. Do you remember the patient we saw in the hospital hallway just now? Remember what he said? When the twilight bathes the white dove's wings, step confidently into that hell or paradise. So what? Find the word that best describes the light on the black door. Dim yellow? Dusky yellow? Say it backward. Yellow. Dusky? Dusk? It dawned on me. Although the place behind this black door was called paradise, I knew it was actually hell. So, the world behind the black door should refer to that hell or paradise. Meaning, when the dim yellow light from the black door shone on the white stone dove's wings, it should be safe to open the black door. The stone dove was still moving forward. Stephen and I stared at the stone dove. Almost. The twilight was about to bathe the white dove's wings. The moment the light fell on the stone dove's wings, I pushed open the door. It was 12 a.m. sharp. From the time the note's cooldown period ended. Only 15 minutes left. The strange noises started in my head again. I am Eric. I am Eric. I am Eric. I told myself. It was dark behind the door, filled with the pungent smell of blood. The three of us turned on our phone flashlights. The room was lined with white tiles, spotless, which seemed out of place with the smell of blood in the air. Reaching the end of the room, we pushed open a door and arrived on the 5th floor. The 5th floor was a long, quiet hallway. On both sides of the hallway, countless rooms were neatly arranged, stretching as far as the eye could see. It was already 12:15 a.m. My note was back. It's about time, right? Ask that note which room to choose. Stephen glanced at me. I took out the note and asked, which room should I choose? A line of text appeared on the note. Before reading my hints, perhaps ask yourself, who am I, to ensure your eyes see the real information. Who am I? All sorts of bizarre, strange, terrifying voices roared in my head. Who am I? I am. Who was I? What was my name? I asked the note loudly, who am I? As soon as I asked this, Stephen realized something was wrong with me. He walked over and asked, what are you doing? I ignored Stephen. I stared intently at the note. 2 lines of text appeared. I am you, and you are me. Take out the director's pen and write on the paper, I am you, and you are me. Yes, yes, I am the note, and the note is me. I am you, and you are me. I knew who I was. I am you, and you are me. I took out the pen and, lying on the floor, had just written one word on the note when Stephen snatched it away. What are you doing? I roared with anger. What are you doing? Stephen retorted. I'm finding myself. I'm following the rules. The note is myself, the note is my rules. It tells you to do something, and you just do it. It's leading you to your death, don't you know? Give me back the note. I lunged forward to grab the note from Stephen's hand. Terry, restrain him. You got it. That guy Terry wasn't smart, but he was strong. I couldn't break free. Stephen held the note and asked, tell me which room to choose. A line of text appeared on the note, get the director's pen, and I'll tell you. Stephen sneered. Bargaining with me? Looks like you haven't understood your situation. You think I can't get out without you? With that, Stephen tore the note into pieces and casually tossed them behind him. A scream echoed in my mind, then silence. I am Eric, I am not them. Clearly, I had just been controlled by the note. If it weren't for Stephen, the consequences would have been unimaginable. I finally understood the note's purpose. I knew why it insisted I get the director's pen. The director's pen could help it escape its prison. The note's goal was to swap with me. Once I wrote I am you, and you are me on the paper with the director's pen, I would become the note, trapped here forever, while the note would live on as me. I looked at Stephen with gratitude. Boss Stephen, thank you. This time, I didn't call him by his first name, but Boss Stephen. No big deal. You were being controlled. If you'd really swapped with the note, we'd have been in trouble too. You knew I was being controlled? Knew it for a while. Dragged it out till now hoping to get some info from the note. Looks like we didn't. A bit of a shame. Investments are risky. Luckily, this loss wasn't too big. That's Stephen. As Terry always said, Boss Stephen is truly Boss Stephen. The 3 of us began searching the hallway for a way out. Suddenly, heavy footsteps approached from not far away, and the ground trembled rhythmically. What kind of heavyweight is this? Terry craned his neck to look in the other direction. I've been following you for a long time. Did you kill me? The newcomer was Peter. From Peter's words, it was clear he had already been killed. The killer was most likely that chimp. Peter, carrying a large axe, ran towards us, getting faster and faster. Naturally, I turned and fled. But after running a few steps, I realized Terry hadn't followed. I looked back at him. You've been following us all this time? You know you've violated our privacy, right? Terry righteously accused Peter. You killed me. No way. It was the chimp, okay. I knew it was that animal. Peter, burning with rage, turned cheekily, waved his sleeve, and left without a trace. Terry quickly stepped forward, patted Peter on the shoulder, and said, "My dear friend, please tell me, how can we get out? You really dare? How dare you run up and ask?" The reply to Terry was, "I am I." What did that mean? Peter had already left the 5th floor. I looked at Stephen, pinning my hopes on him. Stephen frowned, rubbing his chin. I, 3 letters. Where was the exit door? I too fell into deep thought. 3 English letters, could they represent some numbers? I got it. After a long silence, Terry suddenly shouted, "The exit is at the very end of the hallway." Currently, there seemed to be no doors in the middle of the hallway, all doors were along the sides. However, if there was a door at the end of the hallway, then the door was in the middle of that end wall. Meaning I. I looked at Boss Steven. Steven nodded and said, "That's the only way to interpret it." Reaching the end of the hallway, there really was a white door. We entered through a black door and were now leaving through a white one. Quite interesting. Pushing open the white door, behind it was a pale blue, jelly-like, penetrable substance. I stuck one hand through the door. There was no strange sensation. Steven tried to grab a handful of the blue jelly but caught nothing. Safe. With that, Steven pulled Terry through the door. I didn't dare stay there alone, so I quickly followed them through the white door. It's been 3 days since I returned to the real world. Today, I'm supposed to have dinner with Steven and Terry. I arrived at the restaurant, and Steven and Terry were there on time. "Hey, Steven, didn't you say 2 other friends were coming? Why aren't they here?" I asked Steven. "Maybe something came up and delayed them." "I'm sure they'll make it to the next get-together," Steven replied. I didn't press further. Maybe Steven's 2 friends had accidentally fallen into another dimension, just like us. Friends of Steven's couldn't be too bad, right? I certainly didn't need to worry much. A toast to our safe return. I ate Gary's and Craig's share. They won't mind, right? Terry tentatively asked Steven. "Well, I'll definitely tell them the truth. Gary's easygoing, but Craig, not so much." In the end, Terry decided to eat Gary's share and pack Craig's to go. "Your friends might not be back for a while, right? Is it necessary to pack it?" I asked Steven. "Maybe they'll be back tonight." Steven smiled. After we parted ways, I took a cab back to City A and threw myself back into my normal life. Although my patients still stuff little notes in my drawer, thankfully, they're all about trivial things.